Welcome to the San Gorgonio Chapter Trail Talk series. My name is John St. Clair, and I am your Zoom host for tonight with a very interesting presentation that's going to be done by Karla Kellems. But before we start, I want to make sure everybody is muted except for the speaker and me. And if you have questions, use the chat section to type in your questions so you don't forget. And we'll make sure before we sign off that all questions are answered to your satisfaction. So I guess that's the main things we have to go over. I will now put Karla on a split screen with me, and I'll introduce her. So our speaker tonight is Karla Kellems, and she's currently involved in the GSOB surveys. That's the gold spotted oak borer, right? Did I get that right? So
Yep.
GSOB stands for gold spotted oak borer. She's involved in the GSOB surveys in the Big Bear Valley and is involved in efforts to raise awareness. And that is the topic of this presentation. Karla is the San Bernardino Mountains Sierra Club ExCom Outings Chair and Outings Co-Chair for the San Gorgonio Chapter Sierra Club. She is also co-chair of the Trail Talk Committee. And without further ado, I'll take myself off of Spotlight and turn it over to Karla.
Okay. Thank you, John. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So I'm going to make sure I do that right now.
Looks good.
And you guys can see my screen okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. So yes, I will be talking about the gold spotted oak borer, which is proving to be quite a challenge. Um, so you're probably wondering, what is it and what does it look like? Well, the gold spotted oak borer, it's a type of beetle that was introduced to California, and it came from Arizona and northern Mexico, which is its native habitat, and it's come over into California um, by way of most likely people transporting oak firewood. And now it's threatening our oaks. So he's not supposed to be here in California. This is not his native area. So because of that, a lot of our oaks don't have the defenses, and there's not a lot of predatory animals going after these beetles, and that's causing problems with the spread of oak mortality due to what they do to the oaks. So just to kind of describe the beetle, it's a dark green beetle, but actually it's actually looks more black. It's a very small beetle, as you can see in the picture there with the penny. But it's got very distinguished 6 dots on it that are usually kind of a yellowish orange color. And in the picture below, you'll see that that is the adult GSOB with its larvae. And the larvae could be twice as long as the adult GSOB. So that's kind of interesting. So it is attacking our oats, but it seems to be very specific to certain oats. It really likes the California black oak, which is up here in our San Bernardino Mountains predominantly. It also likes the canyon live oak, the coast live oak, and the Engelmann oak. But for some reason, it's not. Its effects are not as detrimental on the Engelmann oak as it is on the canyon, coast, and black oak. So, how does it kill the oaks? So, what happens is the adult GSOB will lay its eggs within the crevices of an oak tree. And it seems to target the older, more older growth oaks because I think in kind of what we're seeing is those older growths oaks have very deep crevices where the GSOB can really wedge their eggs in there and have them be more protected. But what it does is once the eggs hatch and the GSOB larvae emerge, it bores into the underneath the bark of the tree, into the phloem, xylem, and cambium tissues, which are really the tissues that help move nutrients throughout the tree, especially up to the canopy of the tree. Now, this is a slow death for the tree. It has to have a pretty high infestation in order for it to kill the tree. So it takes several years. So unfortunately, it's a very, very slow death for the tree. So here's kind of the life cycle, and I kind of went over that just a little bit. So you got the egg stage, and that's where the females lay their eggs in the crevices of the oak trees. Then you have the larval stage. That's where they hatch and then they burrow in under the bark. And then that's when they start eating and disrupting the tree's ability to transport water and nutrients throughout the tree. The larvae will continue to feed. It kind of girdles the tree and prevents the nutrients from going up into the canopy of the tree and out to branches. And it creates kind of galleries within the tree's xylem and cambium tissues. And then it will mature and it emerges out as a beetle. But it emerges out very specifically. The hole that it makes is very D-shaped when it exits the tree. And then it just starts the life cycle all over again. Now, unlike some of our pine bark beetles that could have multiple cycles, life cycles in 1 year, the GSOB typically only has one life cycle per year. And so that's good, but what it's doing to the trees is not good. So how do they spread? So it's kind of interesting because the gold spotted oak borer, um, they've been documented to be able to be pretty decent flyers. They say up to 10 miles in a single flight. But here's the deal. They're super lazy. And if there's a host tree that's close by, they're going to go to the next best host tree and they're not going to bother with flying 10 miles away. So they're really, really lazy beetles, and they tend to stay very close to the tree that they emerged from. But the biggest concern, and the concern is why it's spreading so readily into so many different areas, is because people are moving firewood. And they're not realizing that this firewood, this oak firewood, has an infestation of GSOB, because that's why a lot of people cut down their trees is when their trees die, they cut them down. A lot of the people not knowing that that oak tree could be infested with the gold spotted oak borer. So, and then they're transporting it to areas where they're going to burn it later. So that seems to be how the GSOB is moving so readily into other areas. So the most prominent thing we're going to find when we're looking for GSOB on a tree is that D-shaped exit hole. And you could see in the picture there on the left, you could see the little head of the GSOB poking out there. In the middle, you see two D-shaped holes. That's where two adults have emerged. And then the picture on the right kind of shows you how small that D exit hole is. It is very small, very tiny. So some things to look for if you suspect there could be a gold spotted oak borer infestation in an area where you live, where you hike, or even on your own property. So the most indicative thing you're going to find is that D-shaped exit hole. That's the first thing you look for. But also some other things you may find are red or black staining, blistering and oozing on the surface of the tree. And this is something we've seen recently with a couple of our recent surveys that we've done. And I believe this is what's happening is the eggs are hatching and the larvae are making their way into the tree underneath its bark. And the tree is exiting sap or oozing um, sap in order to maybe sap out the bug, or as a defense mechanism, once the tree is injured, that's how it kind of tries to heal itself. Another thing you're going to see is crown thinning, and that's at the very tops of the trees. You're going to see the very tops of the trees starting to die off. You could also see just branches that are dying back. So you see a beautiful green tree and it's got a branch that has a bunch of brown leaves on it. And also premature leaf loss. Now, this is something we saw in the fall last year, where in July and August, the all the black oaks had beautiful green leaves all over them, not a yellow leaf in sight on the healthy ones. But then we saw two or three trees that had yellow leaves, and it was too early for it to go into fall mode. So that was an indicator that that tree was stressed and that tree was dying. So those are some things to look for. So treatments available. So there's not really a lot of known treatments for the gold spotted oak borer because it is relatively new to our area, and it's not something in its native habitat that they were really treating for because it's part of their ecosystem. The GSOB was native there, and a lot of bark beetles are nature's thinners, and they do their thing, and they don't seem to have it being so much of a problem there as it is now in California, where he's not supposed to be. So a couple of things we're looking at is there are some chemicals out there. There's a spray that you can use that's got a component in it called carbol that has been used. And also there's a systemic you can give to trees. Mainly the chemicals you want to use on the trees that are have a light infestation or no infestation around trees that do have an infestation to prevent the GSOB. So there's a systemic out there. It's kind of like a fertilizer plus a little bit of antibiotics that you sprinkle around the base of the tree and water it in. And it's supposed to just help give the tree a fighting chance, strengthen it. Chemicals, a lot of people are concerned about chemicals getting into watersheds and stuff like that. So you definitely want to be very careful if you do go the chemical route, because there is some concerns if there's overuse of chemicals. There is another chemical that can be used by a professional. It's an injection that is given to the tree, but it's very pricey. It's about $100 per tree. So something to consider when you're looking at treatment options. Then there's containment. And right now, I think pretty much what CAL FIRE is doing is they're mainly focused on containment. So what they do is when they see a tree that's got a light, moderate, or heavy infestation, they will go ahead and cut the tree down. They will wrap it in plastic. And then what the plastic does is it keeps the GSOB from getting out and infecting other trees. But also it can, depending on the elements, can create kind of a greenhouse effect underneath the plastic, and heat things up a little bit to maybe keep the bug from being viable. Um, there's also other containment. You don't have to use plastics because plastics can be kind of a concern. If you don't promptly move the plastics after a year, they can break down and turn into microplastics, which just turns into a really big ecological mess. So if you're not prompt about removing the plastic, another thing you can use is metal screen. It's the same screen you put on your windows. And it's a metal screen. Now they do make a screen for your windows that's like a fiberglass, I believe. That does not work. They've been known to chew right through that. So the best one is the metal screen. And you can go ahead and put the tree on the ground and wrap the tree with the screen to keep the bug from getting out and infecting other trees. Um, you can also grind or mulch or chip the wood. You put it through a fine chipper, needs to be a very fine chipper, to be able to get rid of all the larvae and the beetles that may be in the wood. And that's another option. And then there's a picture there of a debarker. It's hooked onto a chainsaw. And what you can do is once you put the tree on the ground, you can debark it. This is quite labor intensive. So it works best when you have multiple people debarking trees. It goes much quicker. Now, there is concern about putting the tree on the ground once it's been infected because a lot of these oak trees provide really nice habitat for birds. There's nesting cavities in a lot of these, especially the older oaks, the bigger oaks. There could be squirrel nests, there could be, chipmunk nests, bird nests for sure. So when we do identify a tree that may be infested, with the GSOB, but it has really good nesting cavities. The last thing we want to do is put it on the ground because then those animals just lost their home. So we're trying some new methods, mainly with the containment type of treatment. So you could see there's a picture there of someone climbing up on a ladder. And what we're doing there is we're wrapping screen around an upright oak tree this oak tree had a moderate infestation. And we want to keep it standing, even though it may die. We want to keep it standing because even in a dead tree, nesting holes are very important. So what we did was we wrapped it upright with some metal screen, and we taped all the seams with duct tape. And we did that last year in April. And this year in May, we went ahead and removed it. And we counted at least 10 GSOB bugs. But what we found was a lot of them, as they were trying to get out of the screen, they would come in contact with the tape, with the sticky part of the tape, and they get stuck to the tape. And so majority of the beetles that we were finding were actually stuck to the duct tape. So that kind of gave us an idea of another, experimental method of seeing what we could do. So in that last picture there, you can see the tree is wrapped up like a little mummy. And what we did there is we went ahead and took tacky flypaper, sticky flypaper, and we wrapped it around the tree with the sticky side sticking up against the bark. And the hope for this is that once the GSOB emerges and comes in contact with the sticky flypaper, it will get stuck and it will not be able to go start the life cycle all over again. Unfortunately, a lot of these treatments are quite labor intensive. So that's something we have to keep in mind. So we're really focusing a lot of these treatments on the older growth oaks and the oaks that have potential nesting cavities, because those are the ones that we ultimately want to save them. But if we can't save them, we want to at least keep some of them standing so they can still serve as wildlife habitat. So let's talk about where the GSOB is going and how it's getting there. So you can see, and this is a map of Southern California, and all the red marks are kind of all the hot spots of all the GSOB that have been found or that have been surveyed. And you can see kind of a patchwork of red spots. And what they've identified is each one of those patchworks kind of is they've identified that most likely those hot spots were caused by people transporting firewood. So of course there's a big hot spot down in San Diego. And slowly over time, because people have been moving wood into Riverside County, into Orange County, into San Bernardino County, and now up into Ventura County, now we have all these hot spots popping up. Because, like I said, typically the GSOB, he's lazy. He's only going to move to the next closest tree, even though he probably can fly a good 10 miles. They typically don't do that. So these hotspots are being caused by people moving firewood. So let's talk specifically about our area. This is the Inland Empire. And right now we have some hotspots going on in Yucaipa, Wildwood, Oak Glen. If you guys have been out to the Wildlands Conservancy area and done some hikes, you'll notice that they've been dealing with some GSOB issues. There's some in Forest Falls. And then in 2019, we identified some in Sugarloaf. And since then, they have moved over to Moonridge. We there also has been an infestation noted in Silverwood and also in Wrightwood. And I believe there's also an infestation. I think they're still doing some surveys out there, but around the Crestline Lake Arrowhead area. So the blue outline is Inland Empire Resource Conservation District's boundaries. So that's kind of the area, and they're kind of the ones that have been heading up a lot of these surveys to survey for the GSOB, especially in our area. So what can you do to help? Well, the first thing is never remove or transport oak firewood in or out of the parks and campgrounds because you never know what's going to be traveling on that wood. You always want to buy firewood from a reputable supplier. And what I mean about that is you want to find a supplier that either heat treats their wood or properly seasons it for a whole complete year. And it's best to use locally sourced firewood. Whenever you do have firewood, you want to burn your supply of firewood before you leave a recreational area. And better yet, if you are going to buy firewood in a recreational area, it's best to just stick with pine for right now. We do have native bark beetles, but our native bark beetles are supposed to be here. And of course, bark beetles, the native ones, they're like nature's thinners. And they come in and they identify trees that are genetically weak or physically weak or weak because of climate change, like drought and stuff like that. And they tend to just go after the weak ones, and the healthier ones tend to be able to fight off the GSOB on their own. It's always good to learn more about this, so I encourage everybody to participate in a GSOB survey. That way you can learn and you can help educate others about this problem and hopefully keep people from transporting their firewood around, especially oak right now. And of course, this is called Trail Talk. So this is specifically for the hikers. So the hikers, you guys are kind of the front lines. You guys are the ones that are most likely going to be observing signs that oak trees are starting to die off in certain areas. You may be hiking in an area during the summertime where all the leaves are green, and then all of a sudden you see a couple oaks that have yellow leaves. That would be a sign. Or you're seeing some of the crowns of the oaks are dying off, or you'll see some branches that are the leaves are turning brown. that's a good indicator that something is not right. And that's when you want to go ahead and contact the land manager of the area that you're hiking, just so that area could be tested for and surveyed for GSOB. So it's always good to know who the land manager is on the land that you're going to be hiking, whether it be the Forest Service, whether it be a land conservancy like the Wildlands Conservancy, um, or it could be a park. It's always good to know where you are and how you can help with some of the ecological issues that could happen. And I talked about surveys, and you're probably wondering, well, how do I find out about surveys? Well, there's a couple ways. The best way is going to be what's called a GSOB Blitz. And if you go to www.gsob.org, you click on GSOB Blitz and you can sign up to do a survey. That's where a lot of land managers and a lot of people who are organizing these surveys to test for GSOB and survey for GSOB, they're putting all their events, all their GSOB events. The other way too is through the Sierra Club. I am posting GSOB surveys for the Big Bear area on the Sierra Club events and outings. And I actually have 3 GSOB volunteer survey community field workshop days already scheduled, and they're on San Gorgonio chapter outings and events. One's on Wednesday, April 29th. The other one's on Saturday, May 16th, and another one on Monday, May 18th. They all start at 9 a.m. They're all going to be at the Pebble Plain Ecological Reserve in Moonridge. And you can always sign up that way as well. So it's good to know some resources. So if you want to get more information, and this is a great place where you can get digital information that you can send to your friends, family, people that you know that may think they have GSOB on their property. So this website has a ton of resources. It's www.gsob.org. If those of you who are looking, once you identify GSOB and you think you might have it on your property, or your friend or your neighbor thinks they have it, then you'll want to get some survey assistance. And that's where our resource conservation districts will come in handy. So I have the link for the Inland Empire Resource Conservation District. But if you're in the Riverside, Corona, Moreno Valley area, you'll want to contact the Riverside Corona Resource Conservation District. They're going to be the ones that are you're within their jurisdiction. They're going to be the ones that can help you. Once you identify it, once you get it surveyed, then you'll want to think about some treatment options. And that's where CAL FIRE could come in handy. They do offer assistance with treatment. More so with the treatment that they're most likely doing right now, which is, if you have a low, moderate high infested tree, they're going to put it on the ground, they're going to wrap it in plastic. But some treatment is better than no treatment. So they're the ones you want to contact for assistance with that. And then, of course, I'm always available. If you have any questions, if you want more information, you can always contact me, Karla Kellems, and I'm karlakellems@gmail.com. And so I was going to go ahead and play a short 5-minute video. How are we doing on time? Oh, we're doing great on time. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and play this video. And this video kind of goes into some information, kind of reinforces some things that I already talked about, but it's really, really well put together. So I'll go ahead and play this.
The gold-spotted oak borer is an introduced, non-native invasive beetle that has killed tens of thousands of native oaks in San Diego County. This pest is causing significant economical, ecological, cultural, and aesthetic losses to the region. The beetle was first noted during a survey in the Cleveland National Forest in 2004, but in 2008, Dr. Tom Coleman, an entomologist with the U.S. Forest Service, pinpointed gold-spotted oak borer as the major contributor to oak mortality in the rural East County area. It's believed to have been transported to Southern California through infested firewood brought from Arizona. Its common name is gold-spotted oak borer. However, its taxonomic appointment is Agrylus rugitatus. In short, this beetle is simply referred to as GSOB. The gold-spotted oak borer is very small, smaller than a penny. Adults are about 4/10 of an inch long and 0.08 of an inch wide with a slender, bullet-shaped body. They are primarily black with an iridescent green sheen and have 6 distinctive gold-colored spots on their forewings. GSOB larvae are legless and white in color. Mature larvae can reach 13/16 of an inch in length. Larvae possesses 2 pincher-like spines at the top of the abdomen and C-shaped spiracles. Currently, there are no effective treatments that can eradicate GSOB once it becomes established, and there is great concern of the threat GSOB poses to susceptible oak species found throughout much of California and southern Oregon. Based on research findings to date, there are several recommended best management practices, BMPs, for managing GSOB-infested wood. Seasoned wood strategy. Note the month in which the tree died or was cut down, and take appropriate actions to ensure GSOB-infested wood has been seasoned or rested on site 12 months, plus an entire GSOB flight season, May through October, before it is moved. Grinding wood strategy. Contract a professional to grind infested wood to a 3-inch minus standard. Ground material may then be used in a sustainable practice such as soil amendment or mulch. Containment strategy. Covering or encasing wood stockpiles with thick millimeter, clear, plastic, tarp, or finely meshed metal screen, small enough to prevent mosquitoes from passing through. Debarking strategy. Wood that is thoroughly debarked will not transport GSOB. Bark must be completely removed all the way to the sapwood, and removed bark must be seasoned, destroyed, or contained, because GSOB larvae or pupae may still be alive within the bark. Documenting compliance with these best management practices may reduce liability against claims of knowingly spreading GSOB by moving or selling infested wood. Be aware that firewood consumers are being educated about the dangers of GSOB-infested wood and may inquire about the wood's origin and if BMPs were followed to ensure that it doesn't contain GSOB. Collaborate with local land managers and specialists to create a plan that best suits your situation and local environment. There is no quarantine currently in effect for gold-spotted oak borer, or laws prohibiting the movement of infested wood, as there is for other exotic pests and diseases impacting trees in various parts of the nation. However, there are several ways you can help keep GSOB from spreading. Do not move or support movement of GSOB-infested wood. Buy firewood in the area you plan to burn it. Stay informed. Subscribe to the GSOB email list for current news and information related to GSOB. Let others know about GSOB and its threat. Report suspected GSOB infestation through the online survey form. Join the Early Warning System, EWS, a volunteer citizen scientist group to monitor oak tree health in your area. The gold-spotted oak borer website may be found at www.gsob.org. Visit to learn more about GSOB and access a variety of resources. Or if you prefer, contact University of California Cooperative Extension Office in San Diego at 858-694-2845.
Okay, so that is the end of the video.
So
And
there are some good questions for you.
yeah,
Okay, so Chris Torres asks, are there predators where GSOB is native in Arizona and Mexico?
that's a very good question. Yes, there are predators. They have actually the same woodpeckers that we have here that are the predators for the GSOB The woodpeckers tend to go for the larvae, probably because it's a more tastier than the actual adult beetle. So the larvae does have a predator. However, they've been noticing that the woodpeckers aren't as focused on the GSOB larvae in order to make a impact on preventing infestations. So it may be because some of our woodpeckers may not identify the GSOB or the GSOB larvae as food. I actually had a really intelligent college student mention at one of my GSOB surveys, she's all, why don't we, because birds are really smart and they learn from each other. She's all, why don't we have some sort of a woodpecker exchange program with Arizona where they can bring over some of theirs and we send them some of ours, and then they can teach each other about the GSOB and that the GSOB larvae is a very tasty thing for them. So I thought that was really brilliant of that individual. Now, moving species around, even if they're native to both spaces, makes complications, other complications, but still, I thought it was a really brilliant idea.
Okay, next question. Can you see the D-shaped exit with the naked eye, or do you need a magnifying glass to really see it?
So it is really, really small, but you can see it with the naked eye. And that's where you have to get really up close and personal with that tree. And if you wear glasses to see far, you'll want to take your glasses off and you'll want to really get your eyes right up to the tree to be able to see those D-shaped exit holes. But yes, you can see them with the naked eye.
But a magnifying glass would help.
And a magnifying glass would help, yes. And actually, a lot of people, there's like cell phone apps where you can put a magnifier or something on your cell phone to be able to see things a little bit better, especially that are really small like that.
And then, do trees get marked somehow if they are identified as having evidence of GSOB?
Yes. So during the survey process, we use an app called, there's a couple apps out there. Some land managers will use Survey 123. Some land managers will use ArcGIS field maps. And on the map, what you do is when you're looking for the D-shaped exit holes, every time you see one, you mark a crayon. There's these wood crayons that you can mark right next to the D-shaped exit hole. And then after you're done identifying and marking all the D-shaped exit holes, you go ahead and count them. Now, if it's less than 10 exit holes, it's usually a light infestation. If it's more than 30 exit holes, we call that a heavy infestation. And all that is noted onto the app. Now, if we do have a moderate to heavy infestation, we will tag the tree. And what we'll do is we'll put a flag on the tree, some flagging around the tree, just to identify that that tree definitely needs to be treated, whether it's putting the tree on the ground and wrapping it to contain the GSOB, or whether it's going to be some other type of treatment. So yes, the trees are being marked and identified for treatment.
So are they like little ribbons or something you put on there? Because sometimes I see, trees out and I don't even, with like little red ribbons or tags or yellow or something. And I'm wondering what they're there for, if if there's a reason, if somebody's marking a trail or somebody's marking the tree specifically or something.
Yeah, usually if the flag is marked around the tree, they're identifying the tree for something, whether it's maybe it's a hazard tree and they need to remove it because it could fall into a trail, or they're marking it for other reasons, could be GSOB. But also during the survey process, they are marking the trees with tags that have numbers on them. They're metal tags that have numbers on them. And that metal tag corresponds that tree with the specific survey on the survey app. So they can go back to that tree and update the survey like maybe a year later and see if there is more evidence of GSOB attacking that tree, or hopefully less evidence. Maybe that was a tree that was treated and they want to monitor to see if the treatment was effective.
Great. That's very interesting. Well, I hope sometime I can join you or maybe someone else with one of those surveys because it sounds very interesting. Unfortunately, all the upcoming dates that you mentioned, I'm not available for any of those. So, but
No, that's okay.
yeah, but I'll try to do it sometime in the future.
Yeah, and there's also surveys. If you go to the Survey Blitz, go to GSOB, go to www.gsob.org, go to GSOB Blitz. You could find something in your area because they do have Riverside County on there. They do have Orange County. They have San Bernardino County. They have Ventura County, or even for your friends and family who may live down south. They also have San Diego County as well. And there's GSOB surveys and education going on in pretty much all those counties. So you can always sign up for something that's closer to you. If you don't want to drive up to Big Bear.
Yeah, I'll
I,
ask it. I'll ask it Oak Glen because I love to go to Oak Glen. That's one of my favorite places. So
yeah,
I'll ask there. I mean,
yeah.
I haven't been there very often lately, but I'll next time I go, I'll try and ask there. But they have a lot of woodpeckers there. They need to work on those larvae.
I know they do. Yeah, they need to. I don't know. Maybe the larvae of the gold spotted oak borers are not as tasty as maybe some of the other larvae from other beetles. I don't know. But yeah, unfortunately, they do eat them. They have been they have been observed eating them, but they just don't eat enough to make a big difference to what's going on with our oaks, unfortunately. But yeah, the Wildlands Conservancy, you can reach out to them.
All right, thank you.
Yeah,
Very
are there any?
interesting. I enjoyed your presentation. Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you, Chris.
Yes, excellent. Really
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. Thank you for all you do.
Oh, thank you, Norm.
And those of you watching this, spread the word because this is being recorded and it'll be posted on the San Gorgonio chapter YouTube channel and can be viewed later at your convenience.
Yep, we'll do that.
Okay, well, I think all the questions have been answered. I'm going to stop the recording. Oh, Patty Lindbergh gives you a thumbs up. I saw it
Awesome. Thank you, Patty.
floating on the screen. Okay, let's see. Stop the recording.